Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Your video is about to start. I wanted to remind you of our newer Wednesday, 1 p.m. live stream Q&A on all things Social Security. Visitors are welcome to post a question in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer it. It's on a first come, first serve basis, so please get there on time. Otherwise, if you care to be a member and get some different kinds of perks, feel free to click the join button below or just click it to learn about them. Anyway, I hope to see you Wednesday. If not, enjoy the video. Bye now. Okay, so I wanted to do a little trial prep with you, or hearing prep, I should say. It's not complicated, and we have 2 days. So if you have any like loose strings later or questions, you can always, give me a message or through the portal or call me, and we can always go over anything if you feel you need to. So don't feel like you have to, necessarily know everything you might have a question about. All right. So did you get the email link from the OHO with the link for the MS Teams hearing for Tuesday? Okay, good. Me too. So what I typically do is I call you a half hour before the scheduled hearing time, which I believe is 10:15. So I'll call you around 9:45 on Tuesday just to make sure you're up and about and you've got your device on. Are you doing it through your phone or through a computer or anything else? But when you click on the link and it gets you in, I think you might be able to type your name. Have you been in an MS Teams meeting before? It'll say, we will let the hosts know you're here, and they'll let you in when the meeting starts. So it's really simple. And we'll both be in separate waiting rooms, killing time. This is she's usually pretty punctual, and I'm trying to recall, she might even be a judge who has her assistant call if they're going to be late. But but you never can count on anything for sure. They're busy, and they get someone who arrives late, or something goes awry, like tech, things can take longer. So we have to be ready for the time, but don't be surprised if we don't go off at 10:15. Usually if it goes a half hour later, after 30 minutes, I'll call them. But usually a lot of times, whatever judge will let us know. We'll call. All right. She will also tell us, if some sort of tech goes wrong, we might have to halt the hearing. We'll try to fix it up and then reconnect. And it could be from the judge's side. It could be one of us. It could be the VE. It could be any of a number of things. Usually what I say is, well, listen, unless there's a reason not to, and I don't think it makes a difference in this case. Like, let's say it's my tech that's going bad. I'll say, Judge, I don't have a problem being on phone, so we can finish the hearing. And you would have the option of doing that too. She will put you under oath along with any other witness, which is not me. I'm the lawyer, I'm not the witness. I don't testify. I only do direct examination, cross-examination. She'll just verbally ask you, do you attest to, telling the truth? She'll remind you to have nobody else in the room and have it completely private. And then we both have to confirm that we're not taping it, right? Audio taping or videotaping it. Then there's two main areas that they go through when it comes to getting testimony from you. It's the prior work. Let me get my brief up. Your prior work is almost 5 years ago, but not quite, right? October of 2020. So they do have to ask about that last job because it's still relevant. Because one of the questions is, before they even get to whether you can do other jobs, is can the person do their prior work? Or is it too physically arduous, or for some other reason couldn't do it? I don't really see that being a problem, that step. And we did do the work history, so I don't foresee them needing more information about that, although they could. So it could be where she asked the vocational expert, do you have enough to qualify her prior work? And the VE will say yes or no, or yes, but can I ask one quick question of her? That kind of thing, just so she makes sure she gets it precise. Then the other area is all about you and your symptoms, your limitations in your day-to-day struggles, because you figure all the things that struggle you at home, and you haven't worked in almost 5 years, that's when you don't even have to work. That's just taking care of your basics, right? Your basic ADLs. activities of daily living, go through these questions. So don't worry. Be very exemplifying of, the major struggles, just getting your basics done, getting through your days. If you need assistance from family, if sometimes you're just in bed all day or in a recliner all day, but we'll get to those questions in a minute. There was one thing that we'll probably touch on, although I think her assistant cleared it up with me earlier. I had noted that the SSA had the wrong date last insured for you. It was the one that was up on the screen, and it was this past December. But really, your DLI hasn't expired yet. You actually have till 12 of 25, which is a good thing, because everything you're doing this year and up to now counts. Whereas if you had a remote, meaning in the past DLI, the judge has to focus everything on what the evidence, the medical evidence, and prove is that the disability, did it start before her DLI? You don't have a past DLI, so that's a beautiful thing. It could be any time, from the time you stopped working SGA, which was back in 2020. So that got resolved a few weeks ago. So that's good. As you know, you are a younger individual, so you have the hugest burden of really all claimants, right? Except, I'm very glad you don't have a remote DLI. That would be like a double whammy. I know you're disabled. You and I have been, going through this for a few years now. I know it. And it just takes a lot for the SSA to get to that point, because it is literally every single occupation of the 12,000 occupations has to be carved out. As opposed to if you're over 50 and you can get a bunch of them carved out as a matter of law without, actually proving it. But when you prove certain other things, it kind of wraps a bunch in there, AKA the grids. I'm actually going to bring up a function report, because those are kind of the questions. If you're feeling antsy about it and you want to just look over some things, look over your function report. I can upload it for you if you don't have it on hand. Yeah, no problem. I'm just pulling it up now. That's over a year ago now too. Those are the questions all about ADLs. And we'll go through them, what a judge wants to know about. And then, for everything that you talk about that is substantiated by the medical records, that's really good. And you have a lot of medical records. You've been really diligent. So let's just go through some things they often ask about. When we talk about standing and walking, I assume it might be worse than it was a year ago, or maybe it's better if something has improved things. What do you think? Is that only some days? Would that be on a good day versus a bad day? When is the last time you stood for an hour straight? So how can you say that you could do it? You see my point? Let's think about, because we don't want to overstate it, because it will be taken as, it's certainly not going to be taken as less than what you say. So if you say something that's higher than what you can do, because you're guessing, the judge is not going to say, well, I just think she can only do it for 2 minutes. She's going to take your word for it. Whereas the flip side, if you said I can only do it for 2 minutes, they might think you're exaggerating. Do you know what I mean? So let's think back. Have you gone to the store lately? Do you go to the store at all? A rider cart? Okay. Would it be that you're standing for any length of time? Versus, so are we thinking, right, I was going to say, is 15 minutes a little bit too much then? You do it, but then you pay the price. Do they get swollen? Okay. So do you notice how, 15 minutes, that's a great answer what you gave, because you gave specific example of how you know this. You go to the dollar store because it's the closest one, right? I think that's a really good way of illustrating for the judge, because it's right from your direct memory. You're not supposing it. You're not trying to recollect or figure it out or guess like an educated. So that's perfect. And look what you already did. You already showed that an average day would not be a half hour on your feet. You're already in pain at 15 minutes. You push it, you do it, but you're in pain. So that suggests that something less than 15 would be not so much pain, although maybe it all hurts. Okay. And that's important too, because we have to disprove, because of your youth, we have to disprove sedentary jobs, which is largely sit down. So let's talk about the sitting. Let's say you're in a waiting chair at the doctor's office. You're probably there a lot. Like, how long? They make you wait a lot? You alternate between the exam table and the chair in there while you're waiting for that god-awful half hour to 45 minutes for the doctor to get to you. What about the Sjogren's? And you got both, fibromyalgia and Sjogren's. I thought I saw, by the way, I do have something with osteoporosis. I found that in your medical. I make a list for the judge of not every tiny little thing, but major things. All right. So let's see. I believe so, but I can double check. Let me just go do a quick search in the medical file. No. Yeah, let me find out. Yeah, hold on. Okay. Osteo. It's in the list where it says past medical history. So it looks like they're not really treating you for it, but it's listed there. I'm doing searching for the word and I'm trying to see if a doctor actually narrated about it versus it just being in that cut and paste list of, they do this, right? The cut and paste of prior medical history, which I get, they're going to cut and paste that, but did they ever actually address any of that? Because there's I hate to say it, medications for that. Um, like Fosamax, right? It looks like the last time they noted it, it was January of 2023. But I don't see them discussing treating you for it. It might even be a side effect of a medication, believe it or not. Sorry. I don't like to be the bearer of bad news. All right. So sitting, standing, walking. How about lifting? I'll tell you what was in your function report, but do you feel like, because maybe bending and all that with the hips and the back, not even a gallon of milk. A gallon of milk is 8 pounds-ish. So that's way over 5 pounds. All right. Half gallons. Okay. That might be something to mention. A gallon of milk is really too hard at my house for me. So we always buy a half gallon, which would be then under 5 pounds. I can say, can you explain, your lifting, any lifting issues with the judge? And then you could just tell her the example you told me. How about any interpersonal things? Any interpersonal issues like irritability with family or people out and about? You have a brace. Do you wear it? How often? How about your wrists and hands and stuff? What is the most recent surgery? I'm just going through you got the rheumatology, Center for Pain Management. That was last summer for the neuropathy with the cubital tunnel syndrome bilaterally. So the wrist, tell me about how that affects your use of your arms or your hands. Oh, pain. Does it get aggravated with use? Or does use make it better? Okay. Or if you put pressure on your arms like you're leaning, you're saying, that will also hurt it in addition to bending? Okay. I think that's important. So I'll be asking you about that. So you just try to refresh yourself to our conversation of what you shared with me. Your job was sitting at a table stuffing envelopes. Would that cubital tunnel syndrome cause that to be painful within a certain amount of minutes or time? When you say leaning on the table, do you mean your elbows leaning on the table? It gets progressively worse if you do it 2 days in a row? It compounds. And then, of course, you can't wear them very long because your arm starts swelling. Is that what you said before? So if you did something for a half hour and it started to aggravate it more than usual because you were doing it for a half hour, is it the type of thing where you could take a 15-minute break and go back to doing it again for a half hour over and over? Or is a half hour the most you could do it that whole day and it's still going to be aggravated by the next day? How are your feet? Is that from the neuropathy? The diabetic neuropathy? Which day is this? She reports severe burning in her feet and hands, and she did not tolerate higher doses of Lyrica. Medications, I know we need them, but they drive me crazy, all these side effects. So this was back in like February 24th, so a little over a year ago. Neurology. That's okay. You okay? Well, we can do some more tomorrow instead. We don't have to make this super long. All right. Okay. So this might sound like a silly question. Have you been on any vacations in the last 2 years? So it's like 12 years. How often do you go to the grocery store? Is the only places you go the doctors? Are you driving? Okay. And how far is the doctor's appointment? And is that a very rough 30 minutes to drive? Okay, back to the function report. How's the dizziness? Oh, so that's considered less. So what made it get better? Do we know? But thank God for small blessings, right? The migraines. How often are they where they put you into bed where you are actually non-functional? 3 a month? Okay. So a little less than once a week. Okay. And how long? And how long do they last? 6 hours? Is that 24 hours or 12 hours? Can you think of anything that would be good to share? Yeah, and medically and symptoms and stuff. Not so much personal things, because it's got to always kind of be a way we can relate it to work. So like the standing, the sitting, those are all things that we have to do at work, right? How about the digestion stuff? I know that was pretty bad. How often is that? How often is the diarrhea so bad you're going 6 to 12 times a day? Like how often does that episode hit? 6 to 12. So each time you go, is it like extended period though? It's not like a 3-minute potty trip. Is it longer because of the, gosh, is it spasms in your back? We're definitely going to bring that up just so you're prepared, because the amount of time spent in the bathroom, I know people don't like to talk about it, but that's time when we relate it to work. That is time you would be needing a break, right? So we definitely want to discuss that. And that, I think you were saying now it's up to 6 hours, 6 times a day, but it's like a half hour to 45 minutes each. That's a long time when you add it all up. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. This is not fair. And there's never rhyme or reason, it's just so crazy. Would you say in your regular day, how much time do you spend, like, let's say between 9 and 5, on your feet or sitting upright in a kitchen chair versus a recliner or lying on the couch? I know it's hard. All right, so 10 to 15 minutes, an hour, you can be upright, and then the other 45 minutes you're in a recliner, or and where do you go? Did you say you go to a recliner or to get your feet up, or is it to a bed or a couch? Are you still smoking? Now, had you quit before? Okay, and then you just picked it up again. Believe me, I used to smoke. I know how hard it is. When did you go back to it? Okay. Are you like doing a pack a day, or is it mitigated? She may or may not ask about it. And in your records, I'm not sure if it's mentioned. Did you tell your doctors you went back to it? And did you say to them, but I'm trying to quit again? All right, good. So every judge is different. Everyone knows how addictive it is. And I remember trying to quit many, many times before I succeeded. I was in my 30s when I finally succeeded, but I don't find them when someone is clearly trying to quit. And I think your records kind of show that you are. Yeah. And it might not even come up. And I'm not bringing it up if it doesn't. So that's not something that I would bring up. If she brings it up, I will make sure it's clear. Because I know the records talk about it, that, she's obviously made a lot of efforts to quit and has been largely successful and occasionally falls off the wagon. No judgment here, that's for sure. I used to smoke. Oh, it's been a long time now, but I had to have like a carton in my car. And when you say privacy, what do you mean by that? Like you don't have a separate room you could go into? You want to go out to the car, is what you're saying. Okay. That you won't be the first time. I've had that before. And it was all for that because there was no quiet time. I think the people had kids or something. And it's funny, I think it was with this, was it with this judge? I forget. Now I could be wrong. I don't know. But we'll bring it up and I'll say just she's in a private area. It's in a vehicle though, because she has a studio apartment with other people in there, and it was the only place she could get guaranteed privacy. And I don't think it'll be a problem. You can plug in your phone so it's not going to die on you, right? In the car. I could tell you're in pain right now. Just listening to you. Someone else does the cooking for you? You eat, let me just look at your meals thing. Back in the day, like a year plus ago, he said, I no longer prepare meals, but I do heat up leftovers made by others. And he'd said, holding and using a knife is unsafe for me. Being near hot things is no longer safe due to burns. Cannot stand long enough to, I'm just going to take a little note. May or may not bring it up, but just in case I feel like it. Now, I'm just going to let you know, under the handling money back in the function report, it said, I get confused or anxious talking to people on the phone for bill pay or paying online. I've never been a good budgeter or keeping to budget. And then has your ability to handle money changed? Keeping track of bills is a challenge, as is sticking to budget. Sometimes they use that kind of thing to say you need a rep pay. So just be aware, okay? All right. It could be that I learned to only pay bills when I'm not feeling groggy from my meds, or overly, like now I pick and choose better when to do it, and I've been fine. Because once you learn your limitations, yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm just scrolling down your function report to see if there's anything we want to pull out here. Your back brace just broke just now? So how long? So walking at this time, you said you could walk about a block or two before needing to rest. Then you had to rest like 10 minutes or so. That sounds about right, what you were saying before about being on your feet 10 to 15 minutes, and then it hurts. Okay. For how long can you pay attention? Depends on circumstances and pen level, but generally have a problem with distractibility. Pain can be very distracting, for sure. Yeah. Following written instructions, spoken, difficulty remembering spoken instructions if it was said very quickly. And then you can reread it as much as you want, right? Handle stress, you said not well. I'm less patient, more anxious and overwhelmed, short-tempered, which is worse on bad days, higher pain than better days. Tend to shut down and become unable to do anything. I cry more easily than I should, more often on less stress. So stress gets, well, this is a year ago, you would be more prone to getting overwhelmed on even less stress than before. Like you're not handling stress as well as you used to. Do you have any questions right now? You could always ask me later. I could tell you're in pain. Let me just say one thing really fast, if I can squeeze it in here. If not, we could talk again. After you get done testifying is when the vocational expert, the judge starts asking the vocational expert hypothetical questions. There could be one or more, and a hypothetical question is a person the same age, experience, and education as the claimant, that's you. If that person is limited to light work, would that person be able to do their old job? Yes or no? Are there any other jobs that person could do if they could do light work? Yes, they could do XYZ. Hypothetical number two. Okay, so assume the same person that, if hypothetical one, same hypothetical person, but let's say the person would be absent from work 2 or more days a month. Would there be any jobs that person could do? And the answer would be no, generally. A vocational expert is going to say no, that would be intolerable to an employer, and therefore no jobs. So she could say you could do sedentary. She could say you could do light. If she goes with no other limitations, like the absenteeism or the big breaks for the bathroom, then a VE will come up with jobs. And if she stops there, of course, I'm going to jump in and add more hypotheticals until we get, so at least there's an option of her finding that there's a hypothetical person that could do no jobs, and then match it to you. Can't make her do it. It'll be what she ends up deciding after after the hearing when she's working on the file and stuff. So you generally won't get your answer, generally speaking. There are exceptions, but usually you don't get your answer. So I just always plan to not have the answer by the end. But just so you know, that's how it's going to go. It's going to be probably a series of hypotheticals. Sometimes I do just one. And then, of course, if there's any jobs available, then I bang out a bunch more hypotheticals myself and ask the VE until that VE says no, no, no. But the judge can still go with that first hypothetical that had jobs and then deny. So we're trying to figure out which judge. Yeah, that's it. You could have gotten it. But anyway, so no other questions right now, but I'm here for the next 2 days, and I'm going to be calling you a half hour before the hearing to make sure we're both able to get in. I know you'll be on your phone, but I think we could probably still text. Now, once the hearing starts, you can't text, you can't do anything like that. If we needed to have a timeout, then the judge will turn things off, and then we could get out, and then we'd all go back in. I don't anticipate that, though. That usually happens if we're going to do like an amended onset, or there was an age change, but you haven't had that, where maybe amending our onset would be but we don't really have those options, unfortunately, for this one. But so I don't anticipate that happening. But so we can't text or communicate, once we start the hearing. So any kind of conversations we'll do beforehand. I just want to make sure your link works and you find yourself. So you could get into the hearing room, be in the waiting room, and then just text me and be like, I'm in the waiting room. And then I'll know that you're good to go. And then they'll pull you in when they pull me in. Okay. But we can talk again. I just wanted to give you a rundown, a couple days here. And then if you think of anything in between, or I think of anything in between, we have time to send a message to each other or something. Okay? You bet. And just feel better. If nothing else, I'll see you on Tuesday. Okay, rest up. Thanks, you too. Bye now.